presented by AfterBuzz TV, where integral members of the WWE, Kathy Kelly, Sonya Deville, and Christy St. Cloud started their careers. This is Women's Pro Wrestling Weekly, the first online pro wrestling show dedicated to all things women's pro wrestling, showcasing news and interviews with top superstars in the industry. And now, AfterBuzz's own gorgeous hosts of wrestling.
Bonjour, you are watching Women's Wrestling Weekly, the #1 show talking about women's wrestling on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, aka the Canadian Assassin. We also have, we'll kind of go back into forward a little bit.
Quiet Storm? Can we Quiet Storm, Sarah the Rebel?
Quiet Storm?
Yes.
The Quiet Storm, aka Sarah the Rebel.
To the Quiet Storm.
Oh my God.
America's chocolate sweetheart, Evan T-Mac.
What's going on, TK?
And of course, you haven't saw, but we have nothing but amazing guests on the show. We have one of the original members of Glow. Not Netflix Glow. If you don't know what we're talking about, you guys need to go back. Educate yourself. Check it out. We have Little Egypt in the house with us.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here.
I know, it's like Glow feelings. So kind of let's just get it kind of into it. So you were on season 1 and 2.
That's correct.
Of Glow. I did watch the documentary, and one thing that kind of stood out to me, because WoW is up as well, and they didn't get to, or David McClayton actually declined interviewing with them. Is there do you know what was the reason behind that?
It wasn't because he didn't want to tell his story, and we actually brought David into the AfterBuzz studio, where if you kind of go down the AfterBuzz rabbit hole into the season 1 of Glow on Netflix, you'll see an interview with David, and he breaks it down. All the details, and he gives his 411 on his own thoughts about Glow during that time. It was a personal choice, and that's perfectly okay. The timing just didn't fit.
Okay.
But he's 100% supportive of all of us.
Okay, so it's not because like the reasons why, or the alleged reasons why you stepped away or any of that stuff. It was more just...
No, yeah, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, we just couldn't click it, but he gives a big insight on his perspective of Glow during that time in his life, if you go watch that video.
And also, for you guys who don't know, Little Egypt also hosts the AfterBuzz after show for Glow. And you did season 1, and you're back again to do season 2.
Yes.
Amazing guest. I think you had Mark Maron on.
I know, right?
Wow.
Big deal.
He interviewed the president. I mean,
I know, right?
It's crazy.
the president came to his garage.
I know.
For the...
It's crazy.
And just on a side note, he was just cast as Batman in the new Joaquin Phoenix movie.
Wait.
No, not Batman.
I was about to say, that'd have been the most breaking of breaking news.
That's how badass he is. He is Batman. And Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker.
That'd have been amazing.
Scratch that, reverse it.
Okay, all right. I was like...
Back in business.
What is he? What is he in the Batman movie?
Joker.
Okay, nice.
Is that a big deal? That's a big budget
amazing.
movie.
Huge.
Huge.
He's gonna make one of the like anybody who plays any of those superhero characters, villains or not, you kind of remember them.
Oh,
the
God,
time
yeah.
mark of it all. So tell us kind of what your overall. I know you kind of do the after show and stuff, but kind of what's your overall feeling of Glow of when you were in it versus the Glow of Netflix.
Okay, that's a great question. So for those of you who have only watched Glow Netflix and they're like, this is kind of cool, it's a dramedy, what does that mean? And how closely does it resemble like what exactly happened to us? I think it was probably darker what happened to us. It was also, we were pioneering, and when you're pioneering, you don't know you're pioneering. Right? When you're pioneering, it's just like stress and just confusion, and you're trying to survive, and that's what the atmosphere was for all of us. So I love that they're taking a funny spin on it because it holds the audience better. Like, I don't know how much tragedy someone wants to see on a weekly basis.
Right.
So I absolutely love that they're doing it as a dramedy. And as far as it is loosely based, and there is absolutely no confusion with most of us, like that there are some character similarities, but there is definitely not like complete 100% knockoffs. There's a lot of merging of characters. Did you notice that? Have you watched? Are you familiar with Glow, the original show?
I watched. Well, see, growing up in Canada, as far as I know, we didn't have that, so I didn't see it. I didn't know of it until I started doing more wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw a lot of the stuff on YouTube, stuff like that.
Yes.
But it's definitely. I don't know if you guys remember, there was like a roller derby thing that happened during that time.
Yeah.
It's definitely reminiscent of that to me.
Yeah.
but we didn't have, as far as I know. Let me know, you guys in Canada. I didn't see it. I had no knowledge of it. But it's still amazing to see women do those type of stuff, and then also Ivory in her. What I want to also bring up too, Ivory in her Hall of Fame. Ivory in her Hall of Fame acceptance speech, she actually brought that up.
Yeah.
Now, were you aware when she brought it up, or did somebody have to tell you, and how did you feel about that?
I actually got a message on Facebook from a fan that she gave my husband and I a shout out, and that was really beautiful. I love Lisa Moretti. She wrestled as Tina Ferrari, went on to be Ivory. And when I say WWE, WWF, it was WWF at the time, but it was the beginning of the Diva division, where she actually was the only one to take the belt away from China, which was a very cool deal. And long coming. I am absolutely so excited that she's finally in the hall. Should she have been there 10 years ago? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, you know, I can't complain that she's in there now. And did the popularity of Glow maybe have something to do with it? I don't know. Ask Naomi Glow. Like, look at the influence. Look at them bringing the cast into like the WWE production, because they're bridging themselves to that piece of history, which I am excited about. And, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. I love that. So let's, you know, I'm embracing that. And I hope they continue to embrace these new members of Glow, which we call our sisterhood. You know, these are the new girls that are trailblazing for us, you know, and keeping our legacy alive. Because if it wasn't for Glow Netflix, we would still be in the rabbit hole, and we would still have our fan base of, you know, several 100,000 people that take it back to their childhood, and for them it's just like watching Gilligan's Island, right? Like that feeling you get when you're like watching Bewitched or something.
Absolutely.
And so for us, it's like we've just been put, you know, on steroids. You know, we've just been sent out into outer space, and we're thrilled, because one of the reasons that I do what I do with Glow is to preserve that legacy, and that's what compelled me to become one of the producers on the documentary.
It's wonderful. So, like, speaking, because you said the word diva, we kind of talk about the word diva. Like, what does that mean to you? Do you feel like that's a negative connotation connected to women wrestlers back when they used to call them that? Like, what is your take on that word as far as referring to you guys as divas? Like, you know, when WWE was saying that, like, what do you think about that word?
So for me, when I say the word diva, I'm specifically referencing WWE and their women's division. Just like when I say knockouts, I'm specifically talking about the TNA and that female division. So when I talk about Glow, it's specifically talking about that female promotion. So for me, when I say diva, I'm only relating it to a segment of time, you know, where that's what that means to me.
Now,
but does it mean something to you? Are you guys all like up in arms about it?
It was interesting.
Like, should we not say diva anymore?
Yeah, that
We
was
have all sorts of different opinions.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get your take, because it brought up a few times on the show, and we all have a different like thought process on like diva being a negative connotation, and then one of the wrestlers we had were like, do not
call me a diva. What would they like to be called? What is the new thing?
I think it's just women's wrestler.
wrestling.
But that's the same thing you could say with like knockout. Knockout could be considered, you know, something, you know. And I think it's just to each his own. And if the women in that organization decide that's on a whole, that's what they don't want to be called, then I mean they're there. It's
absolutely, and I'll respect that.
100%.
I'll respect that. I do have a lot of friends that wrestled during that time for WWE, and we just kind of use that word back and forth as if it were just like we're referencing a period of time, and that's what that period of time represented in wrestling history.
Now, you said you were a producer for the documentary, for the Netflix, because from what I heard, I believe when Kia Stevens was kind of casted for Netflix, they didn't know she was a wrestler.
You're kidding. How did they not know that?
That's one of the articles I read. Don't quote me on it, but I think that's kind of what the whole thing is. So after kind of, I don't know if the people finally did their research and realized, you know, kind of tied it in together. Did anybody contact you as far as kind of getting your input on the show?
No, absolutely no contact whatsoever. Babe Ursula Hayden, she played Babe the Farmer's Daughter, has the rights to the trademark of Glow. Oh, wow. So she was on set every day. She was still on set during season 2. It's kind of like her baby with the writers. The writers walked it into Netflix, but it took about a year of negotiations between the writers and Babe to kind of all come to an agreement on like how is this going to be put forward. And then, I mean, it was like a huge process. There was no reason to have all of us over there giving our opinions
Right.
on like what it was like for each of us individually, because I think over the course of those 4 years we did 500 matches, 100 taped shows. I know Lisa Moretti said in her acceptance speech that there were close to 80, but I think there was close to 60 girls cast for this show. And you know what? That's 60 opinions that Netflix probably didn't need to have, right?
Now, you said Babe she has the rights to Glow.
To the trademark.
To the trademark Glow. So I think according to the documentary, she was dating David at the time.
Rickless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, why didn't, or I don't know if you can answer this. So she has the rights to it. So why didn't like David McLean get the rights to it? So it's just kind of whoever came to it first, or?
So David left in season 2, and actually the end of season 2. I came in at the end of season 1, stayed through all of season 2 before I got hurt, and we just all had this real big family connection. And when things were kind of coming apart between David McLean and Matt Cimber, David left and he took the entire cast except for Nanuchka, Fiji, maybe like there might have been 4 wrestlers that stayed back.
Right.
Hollywood was one of them, and those wrestlers went on to seasons 3 and 4, and we went on the POW tour, Powerful Women of Wrestling, which was a road show, and we filmed it. So actually, Lisa Moretti, I think, has all the tapes in her garage somewhere, and those were the tapes that her and David kind of got together and used for her audition into the WWE.
Oh, wow.
So it's like a really amazing story. This rabbit hole is so deep.
I think you can find some POW matches online on YouTube as well. I think I've seen them before.
I went on the POW tour with like the whole cast. We had the same like basic characters. So I was still a belly dancer. I had a blue outfit instead of an orange one. And, you know, the California doll still had like the California theme. We all had the same themes. And we went on the POW tour. It was all filmed, but never really could sell it. Never really did what Glow could do, which was so interesting when you look at this product, right? This product was a variety show. With a wrestling theme, right? And it was 1 hour. Like we held an audience for an hour. And if we weren't good at what we did, if we didn't, you know, if we couldn't keep an audience, then we wouldn't have lasted 4 seasons.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the 4th season, it didn't stop because we couldn't continue the viewership. It was just Matt was tired. And things were just, everyone was just at the point of exhaustion. There was a lot of matches, and it was just time to let that go. We had, at that point, over 6 million viewers watching our show a week. And this was back in the 80s. That's a lot of viewership.
Oh, absolutely.
What people don't know is that after Glow ended in season 4, we went into global syndication. So we were in third world countries. You know, they sold seasons 1 and 2 into global syndication, which is why there are some girls that have huge fan followings, and that's because they were seen in a broader market.
Right.
So
and that
a
was
lot
for
of
like 10 years, wasn't it?
10 years. Thank you for doing your research. Look at you, TK.
This is what we do.
She always
Yeah,
does.
yeah, good for you.
So so essentially now you have WoW also in the
Yeah.
mix too. Have you been able to? Have you been on set with there? And
Yes.
I don't know. Can I announce anything?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
No.
That means nothing.
That means nothing. So have you kind of been on the set there? Have you spoken to any of the girls
Absolutely.
there?
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I love those girls. I've been, I think, to 2 tapings, and David's always so gracious. He always has a seat for me up front, and it's really, really fun. I love the new girls. A lot of them I see at the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion, which is it's a wrestling reunion that happens once a year in Vegas. And so this is how I got to know like the talent that's working today, like Santana and
Who
some of the
just
other girls.
won again, I think this year.
Yeah, she's amazing. What a talent. So, and she just took the, I think the female
Yeah, the Cauliflower
Alley
Women's
Club
Wrestler Award. Yes.
yeah, which was a big deal, and David was there for that. So, yes, I am very much involved in supporting that promotion, 100%. David's a very good friend of mine. I love that man so dearly. He's just so good for the industry. He's so good for women. I don't think he gets the respect he deserves for the work that he's put into this, but he doesn't look for respect either. He's like, the last thing he wants to do is have anyone call attention to him when what he wants to do is call attention to the women.
Right.
And isn't that, he's very gracious.
But it's also great on your part for, you know, bringing Glow, the documentary, and kind of holding legacy up. Because if nobody were able to do that, there's going to be a whole generation of people that just think it's just Netflix Glow.
Yeah,
without question. Yeah, that's well said.
The history is important.
That's well said, because that's to me the best part about the show is calling attention to the history of Glow, and that's a hell of a point. Because I was thinking about that, because things get lost in the shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people were talking to me, Evan, you see Glow? Go, yeah, you know that's based on like there's like a real Glow, right? So I'm like, what, really? So that kind of gives a person that perspective to go look up this thing and get that and just get that context and enjoy the show even more.
I'm so, and that's what we want, and that's what the cast today of Glow Netflix wants everyone to go down that Glow rabbit hole. The documentary, I started it with just Brett Whitcomb. He was the director, and Brad Thomason, who was the producer. They were these two guys from Houston, Texas, working at a college, right? And they had just done a couple other documentaries, and they were thinking, what could we do a documentary on that would be kind of cool? Something that people haven't thought about in a long time. They just went scrolling through YouTube, and then somehow Glow came up, and they remembered watching Glow, and they're like, oh, it would be so cool. So they got a hold of Babe and worked out the details, and they started to put together the very first interview, which I was at. And when I got there were 6 girls. And I came because I heard Matilda the Hun was going to be there, and I haven't seen her in forever. I wrestled her like crazy, because a little girl with a big girl looks really good on camera. And then I heard Hollywood was going to be there. I was like, oh my God, I can't, it's just Hollywood and Matilda, it's worth it. So I drove from Vegas to Los Angeles to give my interview with Brad and Brett. I watched Matilda come out of her van in a wheelchair, and my heart broke. And then I'm sitting there, and I'm told that Fiji was in a nursing home. And I was like, this giant, who I wouldn't be a wrestler if it wasn't for this woman.
Wow.
And my heart, I mean, just the tears would just stream out of my face, and that's why in the documentary all I do is cry in that documentary. But I couldn't help it, because I had a great life after Glow. And I thought that everyone had a great life after Glow. And then I told the producer, Brad, I was like, how many other interviews do you have? And he was like, well, this is all we have. And I thought, wait a minute, you're about ready to preserve our legacy for forever, and we need to have this story told by more than 6 people. I said, can you give me time? Let me go find these girls. And if they wanted to, if they were just looking for a payday, they could have had this documentary in the can in 6 months, because they had enough footage from Babe, and they got a few interviews. They could have sent it out, got their DVD sales, but they were looking for an authentic, organic story too. They worked with me for 2.5 years. I found 40 out of the 60 girls. In the reunion shot, when you saw them, those girls came because, like, I was a realtor at the time, and I had access to tax rolls, I had access to names, and I was using that as my leverage to get into these families. And I knew, because I was a wrestler, they weren't going to think that it was some creepy fan trying to find them. This is Little Egypt, and I'm looking for California Doll, and I can't remember her name. I think, but I remember you knew her, and then one girl led to another girl. Like, I found from Americana, I found Royal Hawaiian. From California Doll, I found Amy the Farmer's Daughter. Like, one person led to another. And then the girls that you saw at that reunion scene, a lot of them want nothing to do with, like, having an online presence for social media reasons. But when they heard that Fiji was going to be there, that she was in a nursing home, and that this could be the last time she could see all of us together, they booked their own flights. We didn't have a budget. This wasn't a budget documentary. This is the lowest budget we had to fundraise at the end of the documentary just for song rights. We did a Kickstarter to get some last minute cash, and then through the executive producer Jason Connell and Brad Whitcomb and Brad Thomason and Brett Whitcomb. Sometimes I talk too fast. My mind doesn't work as well as my mouth. They took it to Netflix after we had a 1.5 years of a film festival run. It was such a successful film festival run. We won awards, Audience Choice Awards, and we took it everywhere for a 1.5 years. Made it on Spike TV, and then from there it went to Netflix. When it aired on Netflix, the 2 writers of the show, Glow Netflix, Carly and Liz, watched it. They sent an email to Genji Cohen, and the email said, what do you think if we did a show about female wrestling? Genji sent an email back and just said yes. They went right into shop it, and then they got picked up for the first season. All because one person, a small group of people wanted to do the right thing for the right reason.
Right.
So I never ever took any money for the work that I did, and I still don't take any money for the work that I do to promote our legacy, because we, unlike the WWE, unlike TNA, unlike big promotions that have like a Hall of Fame or have access to funds, this is it. This is it. So they're helping us preserve our legacy, and I want to do everything to help them. Is why I'm back in the studio, bringing today's cast in with the original Glow Girls and bridging that gap.
So speaking of when Fiji found you and convinced you to become a wrestler, can you kind of tell that story a little? Because we've got the short version, but I'd love to hear like she walked in, what happened.
Oh my God. Okay, so first you have to put yourself as a 19-year-old. My son's 26. I wouldn't, if he ever came to me and said, Mom, I want to be a wrestler at the age of 19, I would say, hell no. You're finishing school. You got plans, son. This is not where your life's going to be. But I was 19 years old. I had ADD. I barely finished high school. I tried college, failed out of that. I had no prospects for the future. And I got a job at a t-shirt store at the age of 19. And in walks Mount Fiji, this 350-pound Samoan giant, right, to have a t-shirt made for a match. And we were a t-shirt store. So you can't look at this woman and not just start a conversation. Like, oh my God, hi, what do you do? And she's like, I'm a wrestler. She was so proud. She was like, I'm a wrestler, and I do a show at the Riviera Hotel. What are you doing here? And she started asking me questions like, what do you want to do with your life? And I was like, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And she could see something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that was, she knew that there were small girls that were wrestling. She had a little Fiji that would wrestle with her. And she also knew girls were dropping like flies when they got to Vegas. I mean, we were getting hurt, and they needed girls. And I don't know if a call went out that just said, like, talk to everybody. But she looked at me and she said, you know, you don't need to be here. You could be doing what I'm doing. You should come wrestle with me at the Riviera. And I was like, wrestle you at the Riviera? Like, this is some kind of a joke. Like, are we in a cage and you eat people? You know, that's like what I'm thinking. Like, when you're 19 and you don't really have a wrestling background, you're thinking this is some kind of a weird, scary deal that's going on at the Riviera. But I knew one thing, and that was I could see a look in her eye that this was worth my time. Like, just go down there and talk to David McLane. Here's what's really different about what happened to me on my journey versus what's happening today with new girls coming into the industry, is that when I met David McLane, I went right into training. 2 weeks later, I was in my first match of 2 that day, live match. Like, I barely could do stomach kicks and front rolls. And Entertainment Tonight was there filming. And just as I told my dad, hey, Dad, who was living in Jersey, hey, Dad, I'm going to be a wrestler, he got to see it on TV that night. Yeah, is that crazy?
When I read you only had 2 weeks of training, I just was like, what do you learn?
What? Basically, thank God it was Chainsaw and Spike and the Housewives that day, because really it was just screaming and running around in a circle and, you know, a couple stomps and, you know, that was it. But what I love about what I was able to have in my catalog is a transition of a very new wrestler into a wrestler by the end of season 2, where I was doing standing drop kicks and taking really good bumps and feeling really confident in my wrestling. So you can see an evolution there. Now, in today's world, for those of you who aren't wrestling, or maybe you're thinking about getting into wrestling, there are schools that you go to, and there are
like Santino Bros.
Right, like Santino. I love them.
Put them over, brother.
Yeah, I love them. And there's farm teams, and then there's developmental leagues that you go into if you're getting picked up. I mean, you don't walk onto television.
Unbelievable.
And it was like 2 weeks. So you guys, if you learn anything from that, it's be brave. Just be brave. Say yes.
And because you also come from a military background. So, I mean, I think that also kind of sets you up for...
Yeah,
you know how to follow directions.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
Oh my God. It was one of the reasons I survived the wrath of Matt, was because, first of all, Italian, Turkish, right? I lived in a household where screaming was just a form of communication.
Yep.
I mean, it wasn't.
Though.
Am I right?
That's true. My parents are military parents. Yeah, that's just how it is.
Yeah. So to me, it was just like, you didn't.
You have a West Indian background.
My mom's British, though. She doesn't scream.
That's the quiet.
Oh, she's very polite, but she's very dry.
Oh, girls were so sensitive. Because Tina Ferrari, Lisa Moretti, she's Italian too. It was just like, you can just you knew who grew up in families where this is just a form of communication, and then families were like they really you were hitting buttons, and they married everything that was being said to them. And I knew, like, if you just don't talk back, right? If you can just let's just get through the meeting and then get the hell out of here, and we're going to get paid. We are getting paid. I made 3 times more as a wrestler than I did working in a t-shirt store. I just wanted to be able to show up next week. I just didn't want to get hurt. That was my thing.
In development of like how'd you come up with your character? Tell me how that works. You know, because when I see a lot of wrestlers, they struggle to come up with their gimmick, and like literally can like make or break an entire career if you come up with the right shtick. Like, tell me about how your development.
We didn't get to pick our characters. We were assigned our characters, so they knew before I even showed up. They had an idea of wouldn't it be cool if we had some girl belly dancing her way into the ring, and you know, they had this idea that she was going to be called Little Egypt, who was really a famous wrestler back in the not a wrestler, famous belly dancer back in the 1800s, right? So she's synonymous with belly dancing. And then our writer Steve Blance saw me in training, and then went to Matt Cimber and said, "I found our Little Egypt," and then they just basically said, "Hey, do you know how to belly dance?" Which I really didn't. I said yes. And they said, "Hey, we got your character. It's going to be a belly dancing little girl, and you're going to come in and you're going to seduce the men in the audience." I'm like, seduce? I'm 19. Nice. Like, I'm not seducing anybody. I mean, it's crazy. But that was my character, and I developed her, and she became part of who I was. That's why I painted the Nazar on my arm, because I'm half Turkish, half Italian, and I wanted to like reference my heritage. So I put a Turkish Nazar on my arm.
Keeping with that theme, even now wrestlers are kind of like given like a direction as far as character go. Like, what can you say to them when, as far as like having the confidence in that promotion, or as opposed to like kind of like meeting with them with resistance? Because like, should they just go with their character that they're assigned, or do you feel like it's okay to try to develop your own?
I think originally, if you're given something, you can make it your own. Right? Like, let's say you're given a heel character and it's really not something you're like you're feeling confident with, then start dripping something else through that character, and most of the time no one catches it anyway. So you just learn to develop it. Like what they envisioned for Little Egypt was not what they got. What they got was my interpretation of Little Egypt as best as I could. Like most of the good girls my size were just there to like just get slammed, and I like did not want that. So I put up more resistance, right? So my job is enhancement talent, or whatever you want to call it, was to go down swinging. Like, I wasn't going to just take it like little Fiji did, right? Like, no way, no, I'm not just taking it like that. We're going to fight it out.
Now, there was an announcement that WWE is going to have their very first women's pay-per-view. Now, I believe you did tweet about it when the announcement did happen.
Yeah.
What was your emotions and feelings, and was there like a tie-in of like the work that was put in those 4 years is now, you know, something that WWE's kind of come to realize the importance of women's wrestling?
I think I love that they're seeing women as viable. Okay, which honestly, we were viable the whole time.
Of course you were.
I mean, we've kind of proved that back in the 80s.
But
it was proved in the 40s. Right. Mildred Burke was the highest paid athlete of that time.
Exactly. I was just going to go back that far, because women were draws on a card. It was women and midgets. Those were the 2 draws. So we pulled in audiences, but never got the credit for it. Now, Glow came out, and for 4 years, it didn't mean anything that women were viable. Now they're viable, but before the WWE pulled the trigger and said we're going to do a pay-per-view, long before that was Shimmer, TNA. There were other promotions.
Absolutely.
WOW. Yep. God, WOW's been around forever.
Yeah,
because this is like 15 years.
Yeah.
Long before that, this was going on, and I'm just glad that if you can't beat them, join them kind of attitude. That's great, because they're a big influence in our industry. So when they jumped on board, they basically put their seal of approval on women in wrestling. Did you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we had Gail on the show, and she made no bones about it that, you know, Impact definitely did a lot more things ahead of time. And I'm not going to just look at her interview. She pretty much put WWE on blast. So it's definitely, there's been a lot of stuff, and I think with WWE, they're kind of letting everybody else test the waters.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like, okay, well now, and especially with everything that's going on beyond wrestling, the Me Too movement and, you know, women's empowerment, it's just that how could you not? Like, if you thought there wasn't going to be any money from putting women in the forefront, now is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not. So, I mean, it's definitely a great, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. What did you think of, like, when the Naomi Glow came out before really the season took off?
Well, let me preface this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know where I'm
at. I'm a huge fan of Naomi. She came into the studio. Amazing. Her and her husband are absolutely amazing. Follow her religiously. Well, I follow The Rock more, but you know, I love you, Naomi. But
and I mean nothing against her as a person. I'm talking about WWE using a segue into tying in Glow with Glow.
Yeah, well, from what I got from how she started it from Total Divas, is that she was just looking for something different. And the fact that she could get, you know, the entrance music that she can get and the entrance that she has was bigger and better than a lot of the women.
That's her on the track.
It's her on the track, all that stuff. So she kind of looked for something that made her stand out. I don't know, from what I've seen in interviews and even from watching the shows, I don't know if there was a tie-in at that time to Glow. Now there is kind of a tie-in because the Glow, some of the actresses went on the show, and she has made references on her Instagram and stuff like that. I don't know if the origin of it was because of Glow.
She didn't say that she came up with the concept, or was the concept given to her?
She said she came up. She said she came up with the concept, but it didn't. She never mentioned Glow. The concept is more like a EDM type of lights thing. So I think now, because Glow is popular, and with the show, it's just a natural. That's what you would think. It's a natural tie-in.
Right.
But from what I've seen from all her interviews and stuff like that, she never made mention to that per se. But you know.
Well, I like it. I mean, I like that. Like, they're trying to build a bridge into what we were doing back in the '80s. So keep going. Like, don't stop. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm just interested in that tied in right at that point.
And now you have made mention too, as far as the women on different promotions, kind of almost start at one point we're looking the same. And what I am noticing is that, you know, you're seeing women of different sizes, not necessarily as diverse as Glow.
Right.
I think they're getting there. I hope they're getting there. I'm seeing definitely on the indie circuit, we're seeing, you know, women of different sizes, shapes, colors, all that stuff. So what are you thinking as far as that? Do you think that it's eventually going to get to a point where you're going to see, you know?
Well, I think they had a shot with Karma, right? I was like, what? That's the deal. Let's get more of that. I was doing the AfterBuzz SmackDown, and then I was, during the AfterBuzz SmackDown was when Karma was kind of big in the WWE at that time. And I just was like, that's what we need to have more of. Look at that. Look what she does when she comes out. People are scared. And you can't just sell that. You have to be that. And to be that, you have to, like, you know, it's not coming from a cookie cutter version of that concept. It is like you are that person. And I absolutely think they need to do way more of that. I know that the bathing suit scene was the bathing suit scene, and then, you know, the divas and what they were doing there. And I believe me, it was great for the ones that made it, but there was a lot of talent that didn't because of their size. And I am an advocate for character development. One of the things that Glow did was that they showed that anyone can come into the wrestling ring and take a bump. That characters are, this was really, and I did an interview with Steve Austin about this too, because believe it or not, he's a Glow fan. You can actually,
he seems awesome.
He's a student of the game, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh, you can actually go to YouTube and he sings the Glow rap with me.
Okay, now
so
doing that when the show ends.
So look at that. It was the best thing ever. He starts spitting out the glow. I'm like, what? Oh my God, this is great. So why I'm saying that is because people that are in the know about character development refer to Glow and the work that we did as the perfect example of, if you're going to build a character, you've got to start with being all in with that character. And you can't, like, you can't, you know, be mean one day and good girl. You've just got to do it and own it and live it. And that's why when I'm in the wrestling industry, or when I'm talking to people who've ever done wrestling or advocates of wrestling, call me Little Egypt. I'm still Little Egypt, even though I'm not in the ring anymore. I am still that character till I die, and that's the way we feel about our characters.
That's what WWE actually tries to prevent. Like if you go to their performance center, they do not want you to already have a character. They don't want you to show up in your gear. They want you to give a promo in normal clothes. They tend to prefer athletes. So like they literally start from a palette wipe. Like they want to just fill you with a character, which is the exact opposite of what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's like movies, like wrestling, everything, like people care about characters.
Yeah.
Before the wrestling, it's awesome when you can wrestle, let's be honest. Like you have to get in the ring and perform, but your character, when you care about the character, you almost don't even give a damn what they do in the ring. You're like, this person's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting away from that, and like especially WWE, which I love, but they're getting away from amazing characters. You know what I mean? And the ones that are over, they have a shtick, especially with the women.
Yeah.
They write you guys still terribly. As even a lot of promotions do. Like you're angry and you guys are doing like you're mad at each other, and then you know what I mean?
Just
like
throwing a pillow fight.
And I'm like,
It's like, have you met women?
Like seriously, like there's so much, and and I think that gets lost in the shuffle. That's why I think it took so long for people to latch on to this women's evolution thing, because they're not. There's no women characters. There's not a storyline for women.
That's a good point.
And when you get one, you're like, oh, okay, damn, okay, this is a thing.
This is
And they're building it, and they're patient with it, and it's taking time, and it's growing. You're like, oh, okay, I give a shit about this.
Yeah. One of the things that worked for Glow, we had an hour to develop that behind the scenes understanding of that personality before they even entered the ring. That's why Nanuchka with her phone calls to Vladimir, California Doll with her doot. You knew that she was stupid when she got in the ring, right? Because that promo helped her do that. Yeah. When Tina was, when Amy was writing letters to home, the way she wrote her letters, you knew that she was a farm girl. So that's missing. And it's obviously they don't have the same luxury of time that we had at that moment when we were wrestling in the 80s. So maybe that's a big component. But I think more of that to help promote the character. Remember Piper's Pit? Do you remember back in the 80s? Like they were doing it.
So
it was going on. We just need more of that.
So do you think it's because it's a combination of the PC culture? Because I mean, a lot of the stuff, Glow, WW, a lot of the stuff in the 80s and early 90s, you look back at it, and you understand. For those who don't get angry at everything, for the folks who watch it, it's like this was the time, right?
Yeah.
And now it's just like people are getting offended by everything. And so do you think the writers, for women in particular, do you think they're just trying to want to kind of be safe?
Girl, do you remember that whole thing with what's his name, the Maharaja, where they tried to make Indians bad guys with bomb grenades?
But I
don't know that we're away from that.
No, but I was
but it's still, I know what you mean. Complaining about that,
and they were
complaining about Shinsuke.
And remember the body shaming thing though? I couldn't believe they did that. I was like, what? Like they had like Alexa Bliss body shaming Nia Jackson. I was like, well.
So I think my question is, do you think that there should be women? Well, I think I don't know if there are women writers in the writing room.
There's no way.
I don't think so.
Every time they showed a video of the writers' room, I don't see any back
I just need one. Just give me one woman in there writing for women. Just give me one.
That's cool. There should be. Actually, I was just at lunch with Matt Simber before I came here, and we spent 2 hours, and he had said, because we were talking about character development and the characters, and he said something to me which really made a lot of sense. He goes, you can take it as far as you can till they start losing their smile. You just got to know where that is, where their smile stops. So it's funny up to the point that the smile goes away. What is that in today's culture? Maybe it's not that as far as it was in the 80s, but there's got to be an opportunity there.
Yeah, because you see it, I'm assuming, did you watch the whole season of Glow 2?
Absolutely,
okay, So you see it in the season of Glow 2 where, if you guys haven't watched it, I don't know what to tell you. But when...
I don't know.
Spoiler,
I know. So essentially, they get to the point where, it's, oh my gosh, Kia Stevens' character, she's in the ring and her son's out there watching her, and she feels it, and then eventually she runs out of the ring, and now people have turned on Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess maybe we can. I don't even know what the answer is. It just seems like the PC culture is too far. And obviously, you can't go back to the 80s where it's just, offensive. So it's like we have to kind of find that perfect medium. But for women in particular, it just feels like there's just something missing where it's not clicking. Like I'm tired of seeing
because they need
best
a woman
friends
in
break
there,
up,
though.
Yeah.
And then they come back together, and then they hug it out, and then they break up. It's
just give me one woman, like a consultant. I don't care if she's like on the outside of the writer's room. Just like peeking in every now and like, okay, let's not do that. Let's do that.
I mean, one
just
of the things that prevents a stereotype is having multiple types of women, and not just your token, because that's where you do run into the stereotypes that will bump up against what, you know, you're referring to as PC culture. If you have one Asian and she's the Asian character, yeah, you're gonna have that problem. But if you have 4, 5, 6 Asian women and one of them is Asuka with her big robe and her mask and everything, then it's no longer a PC issue, because that's just her. It's not a statement about her race. So I think it all does come back to time, giving the women the time.
That's what they need, like, and just maybe like just a different direction besides the breakup thing.
Yeah. So are you? I'm guessing you're for WWE kind of doing the rumors have kind of been they're going to have their own women's show.
No way.
Oh, absolutely.
That's been kind of the rumors.
It's been, and I think this pay-per-view is going to be like kind of like their test.
Isn't there like Total Divas kind of like their own women's show?
No,
but I mean like wrestling. You know what I mean? Like
Total Divas is more reality.
They're going to see if they're going to a woman.
Wrestling show.
Oh my God, that would be awesome. That would be awesome, and so they're testing to see if it's viable.
That's what we think.
That's so. Here's the thing. Nice. So our show, we have this kind of thing where when people come on the show as guests, they usually tell us what they want, and you know it sometimes happens. We have a few guests on the show who went on to the Mae Young Classic. They got signed to different promotions, stuff like that. So usually we kind of have our finger on the pulse as far as things that are happening. So I think that's kind of what they might be testing for, because now with WWE, I feel like they have so many women that are kind of in NXT, in Raw, in SmackDown, in development that there's not enough. We're only seeing, of course, I've said it before, like we're only seeing Trinity, like, not as often as we used to 2 years ago.
And they have a whole channel to fill.
Exactly.
Frankly, they got all the time they need.
Yeah.
I love it.
So, I mean, I think that would be, and especially with Glow and Netflix and the documentary and all that stuff.
I think it'd be a good time.
Yeah, it would be definitely a good time to kind of test it out.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. One, because I want to see women working, right? And I know that the hardest thing for the last 10 years has been like, how much time can we get? And now, if you're taking away the restrictions of time and you're going to see the character development you want to see, that's going to be awesome.
Now, have you been in any talks, or has anybody from WWE talked to you as far as consulting, or has there any talks with any people in the WWE division?
I have friends there, but no one's ever approached me with, hey, what do you think of this idea? They do have Tina Ferrari, so they got a Hall of Famer.
Right.
That's a Glow girl, so I can't see why they wouldn't go to her first. But call me anytime. Yeah. I mean, I'm available.
It seems like you have your pulse on as far as character.
Yeah.
Like I've heard you in different interviews talk about like the importance of it.
Yeah.
And then also not being, just the, okay, she looks pretty and she can kind of sort of wrestle.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would definitely be a good idea.
Yeah. Well, you guys know where to find me.
Yeah.
I'm all over social media at Little Egypt.
Our show is magical, so things happen.
I'll let you know if I get a call.
So, any predictions? I don't know if you can kind of break it, but any predictions as far as Glow Season 3? It hasn't been, I don't think, has Season 3 been announced yet? So, of course, it's going to happen.
It will.
It's set up.
Turns out it was one of the top 3 shows that they've had. In season, I think, was it season 1 that was one of the top 3 shows last year? And then obviously I don't know why you would get 10 Emmy nods without some type of
that's like holds a lot of weight.
Yeah, it does, right? And then their first season they had 11 million viewers, so that's pretty strong to be one of the top 3 shows. Orange is the New Black, which is the same executive producer, 18 million viewers. So for your first season to have 11 million, that's pretty awesome, right? I love it. I think predictions for season 3, you obviously know they're going to Vegas. What I'd love to see is the Marc Maron character, Sam Silva, go into a deep, dark hole, because Las Vegas in the 80s was when you just snorted your way, right?
They do that right now.
Right, they're still doing it, right? And whatever happens in Vegas, right?
Stays in Vegas. And he just lost his daughter, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And then I would love to see more of what it would be like for us when we were there. It was like we were running barefooted through the hotels. It was like a playground for us. We got buffet tickets to eat in the buffets.
That's
we had to
the dream.
Oh my gosh. So we'd be up in the buffet and there'd be chains on spike, and even though I'm not allowed to go sit with them at their table because kayfabe, we're supposed to be in character, so we just kind of snarl at each other, and I'd take my plate over here and they'd take their plate over there, and then Mount Fiji would come in and she'd sit with the good girls, and we'd be like, yeah, we got Mount Fiji, right? And we ate there 3 times a day.
Oh my
That's
God.
all we ate was
good.
that damn buffet food.
Awesome.
Crazy.
Now, if you can just strip away everything, you didn't get injured, any of that stuff. Are there top 5 people of yesterday and today? Who would you want to wrestle? Who do you want to be in a match with?
Wow, that's a great question.
Yes, it is.
Male or female?
Yeah.
Man. Oh, male or female?
Male or female?
Well, a Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think would be fun.
That would be kind of
awesome. I'd love to wrestle him. That would be so fun. Because I think we would have a funny match. Because he's a funny guy. He's really, really funny. I know he would come up with something crazy. Then I think probably I definitely wouldn't want to be with Moolah. She would kill me, and I know that she doesn't think anything's funny, so that would be not the person. But maybe someone like, I don't know, China. You know, I think China would be really cool. Definitely a big person, because that would be really cool. And then I don't know. That's all. China and Steve Austin. Yeah.
I like that. I like
what
that.
about you? Give me 2 right now.
No one's ever asked that before.
Well, for you guys who do, obviously The Rock for obvious reasons.
Bobby Lashley.
Are we wrestling him?
Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, Bobby Lashley. We'll throw that in.
He's pinning her, and she's just like touching his pecs.
Like, why aren't you kicking out TK? He's like, I don't want to kick out.
Natalia. I just want to have like a Canadian on Canadian kind of thing.
Trish, what about Trish? No Trish?
Yeah, Trish is awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost want to have, we have just so many, so I'm from Canada, as I say a billion times. I like to almost have like a Canadian, like women's, like thing, like where you go up against to discover who is the best Canadian wrestler. And then you have the face that runs, like how Kevin Owens had the face that ran the place, even though he's Canadian as well, which I loved. Like I have that where it's like they have all the Canadian wrestlers wrestle each other, and then they take the notch, and then they're the American face that runs the place, even though it was just a bunch of Canadians wrestling each other. And they have a whole bunch of Canadians on the roster too. There's just so many. But we have a little segment where it is like a, what did we call it last time? I forgot the name of it.
Hot tag.
Hot tag. Yes. Thank you. Where we're going to ask you a bunch of questions. Well, not a bunch, just a few questions.
First
like
thought.
rapid fire. Relax. You're going to say whatever comes to your mind.
Okay, go.
All right. So always early or always late?
Early.
Last person you text?
Matt Simber.
What is the one thing that you really love about yourself?
Driven.
Celebrity you want to meet?
I just went blank. I was going to say Jesus.
I mean,
Does he count?
That's like the number one celebrity right there.
Is he a celebrity too?
I would say so.
Jesus.
Last show you binge watched?
Oh my God, I'm binge watching it right. Well, the last show I officially binge watched was Outlander, and I'm currently watching Games of Thrones.
Okay. Guilty pleasure?
Cheesecake.
If you were a crayon, what color would you be?
Pink.
And if you were on death row, what would be your last meal?
Riviera buffet.
The buffet, yeah, seriously.
All right, Riviera buffet. As long as I can stay there during an unlimited period of time, because that would be my exit strategy.
Okay, all right.
What are we gonna do? She won't leave the buffet.
I'm just here eating.
Mr. I want to call you Chocolate City.
Yo, that's my joint right there. That's one of my favorite tracks right there.
Serious?
Yeah, Roger Troutman.
All right, you have something for us.
I need that. yeah, it's the call to action. You know what I'm talking about, TK. Hey, After Buzzers. Our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There's no network that works harder to serve television fans. The glare hit the words right when I was talking. But we need your we're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you and help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit that subscribe button now for the channel, and check out our AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did in the comments, and we'll thank you on air, like my man Johan Pena and Bosa and Star Drew, the whole lot. for now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk.
And what are we without that star of the week?
We're nothing without it, to be honest with you. We're nothing.
It's true.
Star of the week.
Our women's wrestling star of the week is Xia Brookside, a participant just announced for the 2018 Mae Young Classic. The 19-year-old is the daughter of Robbie Brookside, a British pro wrestling legend who currently works as a trainer at NXT. Xia first debuted in 2014 as a valet, making her in-ring debut a year later at All-Star Pro Wrestling in a tag team match, putting her against El Ligero and Kaylee Ray. So Kaylee Ray is another one of my favorite wrestlers. We're going to talk about her more eventually. And Sammy D. Now, if my math is right, that means I think she was 16 when she debuted, which I feel like would be illegal in America, but whatever. I'm also 90% sure she is the youngest Mae Young Classic participant, although she has more experience than other participants who are older than her. So So since her debut, she's wrestled women such as Jinny, Mary Apache, Toni Storm in places like Stardom Japan, Rise, and Scotland's ICW. Wow. She also, the first time I saw her, was wrestling Joey Ryan at Bar Wrestling out here in California. She already has held 2 championships, and I think she's headed for more greatness. Our recommended match is Xia Brookside versus Rachel Ellering, which you can find on YouTube. The match really shows off both women as the technical grappling wrestlers that they are.
Awesome sauce. So our poll of the week is, who do you think will win in an all-out match? So you have Glow of Old, Glow of New, or WoW. So you guys vote on our Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff.
That's a hell of a poll question right there. That's the best poll question of the show right there. That's a good one.
Wow. Thank you. You know, to end the show.
That's a good one.
Thank you so much, Little Egypt.
Thank you, Little Egypt.
So much fun. Thanks for giving me a platform.
Oh no, I mean we definitely appreciate you coming on the show. And you know, like I said, we are a magical show, so we'll see what's gonna happy come to your life. Now, where can people find you?
Sure. Okay. All social media at Little Egypt. And then you can always explore my website at angelinaaltician.com. And then care to wear a Glow t-shirt, you can go to Pro Wrestling Tees /Little Egypt.
And I believe on your Facebook page too, or your fan Facebook page, they have everything like different interviews from Glow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm kind of using my Facebook page as a library of all sorts of. So if you really want to go down that Glow rabbit hole, if you've seen the documentary, you still want more Glow, go find me on Facebook at Glow Little Egypt, and then just start exploring the albums. You'll have so much fun.
And then Miss Sarah the Rebel, where can they find you?
You can find me everywhere at Sarah the Rebel. Evan, don't you do it. I'll smack you from across the table. Sarah the Rebel. Sarah's an H, as God in the Bible intended. You can find me also on Ko-Fi, ko-fi.com/Sarah the Rebel, where you can donate money to me to buy a coffee.
Oh, yeah, I have that too. I think it's TK Train.
Such a copycat. We can just ask people for money.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
You
can literally buy somebody a coffee, or they can just keep the money.
Yeah.
I want them to keep the money.
Yeah, you just. I
can tell you now. They know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's bought me coffee yet, but just
it's there.
It's somewhere there.
I've gotten some tea. Thank you, everyone.
Where can they find you, America's chocolate sweetheart?
Yes, Evan T. Mack, Twitter and Instagram. I'll let your boy.
All right, short and sweet. So don't forget to subscribe, AfterBuzz TV Wrestling and Sports. Also follow us on Twitter, WPW Weekly, on Instagram, Women's Wrestling Weekly. Also iTunes, 5 stars. Don't give us anything less. I have been reading the comments on our YouTube page. Amazing. Everybody really loved that Chris Wolf interview.
We did.
So, well, yeah, So other than that,
I talked to her at bar. She says, "Let's do it again sometime."
She's
so
awesome.
we should definitely have her back.
Well, I
2.
mean, like I said, season 2 is gonna be amazing. We have some things kind of coming down the pipes. I almost want to fast forward to the end of season 2 because we have
She can't tell you.
Stuff.
It's just gonna be stuff. This person's not Canadian, so just but we'll work on it. Other than that, you can find me on everything at TK Trinidad. This is the end of season 2. We might have a little bonus episode where you guys get to ask the host questions, and that will be live. So you can, write in, type in, you can send pictures. So we'll give you all those details on our social media and all that good stuff. Other than that, we will see you guys next week. Ciao.
From executive producers Kevin Undergaro, Maria Menounos, Phil Svitek, producer TK Trinidad, and me, Mark Donica, your voice of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling, we ask you to rate and comment on iTunes, subscribe to AfterBuzz Wrestling on YouTube, and find us on all social media. Thank you for watching Women's Pro Wrestling Weekly. See you next week.